Straw Hut Media.
Ho, ho, ho. It's the most wonderful and obvious time of the year to discuss Christmas movies. And for the last few days of December, I have some great ones to talk about. Hi, everybody. It's me, Mark J. Parker, a film lover and filmmaker. And this is Release Date Rewind, a podcast celebrating milestone movie anniversaries. Thank you for listening to this show on the Straw Hut Media Network, wherever you get your pods, or watching on YouTube. I like to talk with friends about movies of the past as they reach a new special anniversary. So if you need some fun while you're hanging out at home, or cooking, or driving around town, we'll keep you company. Just like Billy kept those sorority girls company whether they wanted it or not. That's right, everybody. It's the 50th anniversary of the scary, smart, and super influential 70s slasher Black Christmas, aka Silent Night, Evil Night, not to be confused with Silent Night, Deadly Night, or Silent Night, Bloody Night. A lot of Silent Nights. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake, girls. Now, if you need to watch or rewatch this Canadian classic before continuing this episode, the movie is actually available on a few streamers right now in the US. Prime Video, Peacock, AMC Plus, or Shudder, and Canopy, just to name a few. All right, sisters and misters, don't answer the phone and don't trust your boyfriends, because it's time to rewind. It's the holidays. At least here in southern Maine, it was snowing this morning. A perfect day to talk about Black Christmas with my friend, Jeff Bugajski, a big Black Christmas fan. Right, Jeff?
Exactly. How are you?
Last time you were on was last December, The Exorcist. Do you remember? That was a year ago.
Yes. Yes, because I remember feeling like I didn't know the movie compared to your other friends. So like,
yeah, Solana. That's so funny. You're like, I know I've seen this.
I've seen this once or twice. No, I've seen it like 1,000 times. But yeah,
Right.
I was like, I need a doll. I need someone just get me a.
I know. Remember, she had that doll that was talking our ear off, and we're like, okay, enough. That's great. We got to move on, right? But yet, that was a year. Right. 2024 was fast, Jeff. Overall, what was 2024 like for you? Was it good? Weird?
2024 was not. I don't like to downplay years. It wasn't the best year, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course there's some ups and downs, but my mom broke her ankle. I got into a car accident in January. It's fine. But
right.
Summer was good though. I feel like this winter, spring was yeah. But some good movies though.
Some good movies. Yeah, we got some good entertainment this year, good performances. You've been seeing all sorts of things. Broadway. Anything you want to recommend, like that you've been seeing lately? Movies, shows, musicals?
Listen, when in 10 years, in 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25, I will, please let me talk about The Substance.
Oh, Jeff. Oh my gosh. I finally saw it a few weeks ago. Oh, did you see that one in theaters?
I saw it in the theater. I saw it opening weekend.
Oh, wow.
And it's so funny. Can I tell a little story about this real quick?
Yes, tell me. I want to hear.
So I made plans to see this. So I have a couple friends. And of course, I won't remember their names right now. Lais and Chad. Remember, Lais and Chad. I haven't seen them in probably since our wedding, right?
Oh, yeah.
We talk about horror movies off and on through Instagram, and it's great. Yep. And they're like, why don't we go see this movie? It's coming out. And I go, yes, I've been dying to see this thing for months. It's been all my Instagram ads. I couldn't wait to see it. Make plans to go see it in Queens, because it's like a halfway point between our place and their place. It's a Friday night. I did not put in my mindset of traffic, getting back into Queens. God. Literally took me 2 hours to get from my house to the bridge, which I know people won't understand what that means, but it's not a 2 hour bridge. No. So I get there, I get to the bridge, and I'm like, guys, I'm missing half the movie. I'm not gonna miss preview. So I actually turned around. Came back home mad. Oh, thank you, sweetie. I have a recipe for Christmas here. You guys say hi? Say hi.
Hi, Avery. You're on camera. Do you want to say hi to your fans?
Say hi to your fans.
Hi.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, I get back to the house because I
Yeah,
missed the movie. I am furious. So then I looked online, found a showtime in my town, like where I can walk to, and I saw
right.
it at like 10 o'clock at night. So
Oh, so
I got
you
to see
still
it.
went that night. You
I
went
still
just
went at
alone.
night,
Yeah.
just alone,
Yep.
and it was still an amazing experience. So
Oh, wow. I'm
when
glad
I
you still got that experience that night because I have been there with like traffic or just like your brain wasn't working and you didn't give yourself enough time and like
right,
getting like so close to the theater, but like you're already missing so much. Like,
right.
oh, it's the worst. Yeah, you can't, especially a movie like that, you cannot go in just in the middle. No way,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, and this has been like this was my Wicked, and I love Wicked, but like this was my
Mm,
Wicked movie. Like I've been, like I said, I think the trailer or maybe a teaser came out in the spring, and
yep.
I'm obsessed with her the woman I forgot the director's name.
Margaret. Oh, Coralie something?
Orly something. She did Revenge.
Coralie?
Did you ever see
Yes.
that?
Oh,
Yeah.
I saw Revenge. Yeah, really great and so beautiful. Her movies, like, are so visual, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I just been, just couldn't wait to see it, and then I
That's
was glad.
great.
Yeah. What did you
But
think?
that's a bummer that you didn't get to see, like, your friends at least, but I'm sure then you were chatting about it, so it was like you saw it together, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, no, it was quite, yeah. We texted and chatted about it later, but yeah, it
Good.
was just like our reunion we didn't make. So now we have
Yeah.
another horror movie to see where
Right.
we'll see together. So
Another wacky horror movie. Yeah, I loved it. I'm so glad you liked it too, Jeff. It was annoying for me because I didn't see it in theaters because, as you might remember, I messaged you once you saw it.
right.
I said, how bad is the needle action? Because I just cannot. Like, guys, needles. It's getting worse as I get older. It gets worse. Like, ask my husband, ask my family.
Oh no.
I like just going to get like blood work, which I didn't even do this year. I'm like, I can't do it every year. I cannot. I had to like put numbing cream on my arm and I was like crying. And this was
Oh
like 2 years ago, guys. Like
oh
this
my
wasn't as a kid. This was like just,
God.
right.
This was yesterday.
And like, thank God the numbing cream worked because you buy it off Amazon and it has good reviews, but will it actually work? And thank God it works. And so I asked Jeff, I was like, how bad is it? And you did give me, now that I've seen it, you gave me
It's
you said it's gross. There's more extraction because like, that helps me to know. Um, yeah, it was a little rough. There were moments, I'd say a good 20% of it, Jeff, I was definitely not watching. I was truly, and it wasn't even through the fingers. Like, because Greg
right,
was letting me know via his vocal reactions. He would go like,
right.
"Oh," and I was like, "Oh, thank God." And like, I literally, if you're watching, everybody, I had my eyes covered with my hands, but I also was turning away, like just in case I saw like So, but everything else, love.
Yeah. Well, you know what that means, Mark? It means you need to this is the movie you have to make has to be with needles. Like you have to conquer this fear. You
I
have to do
know.
it.
I think you know what? I think seeing like Requiem for a Dream at a young age like really did something to me with those needles and like, oh God, it's just too much for me. But
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
also another big thing real quick, Jeff, this year is speaking of Hugo, you got a new dog in
We
2024.
did, we got a new dog. Well, yeah, that was the other so the other thing, thank you for reminding me.
Mm.
So our old dog Sydney passed away, which was
I'm
very,
so
very
sorry, Jeff.
sad.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. Yeah,
Uh,
I luckily met Sydney at least once years ago, and I mean that dog was iconic. I mean all the
yeah.
photos. So I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But so we,
Yeah.
she passed away, and then September we got Hugo, and he is a
Wow.
real dog. He
Yeah.
he's like puppy, biting, jumping, he's a good boy though, but
He's a
he's
good
not
boy, but he's work for you all,
he's
I'm sure.
he's a little work. He's
Yeah.
our third kid now. We have three kids.
Yes.
Speaking of devil, hold on. We got him. We got him. Hold on. Hugo.
Who do we got? Oh, Hugo. Oh my gosh. The man
Yeah.
of the hour. Oh, what a cutie.
I'm
What
a
a
good
good dog. So how
dog.
old is he, Jeff? Just like a few months
He's
old?
10 months. 10 months old.
Oh my gosh. Avery, do you love Hugo?
Uh-huh.
Well, Jeff, love to hear all the good stuff happening now. Now, everybody, let's rewind. Let's go back. We're leaving 2024 because, like Jeff said, I completely agree. Some good stuff, some great stuff, but a weird year. Some really not so like great stuff, right? And
Yeah.
all we can do is fingers crossed for 2025. I don't know. But we're going to go back to the 70s, everybody. We are going back to 74 when Black Christmas came out on December 20th, 1974. Fun fact, Jeff, since you also, like me, are a big fan of Scream, Scream has that same release date. Maybe you knew December
Uh,
20th, but 1996. So how
oh,
funny, two iconic horror movies, same day, at least, December 20th. That's
That's good
pretty cool,
trivia. Yeah, I don't think I
right?
knew that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
especially with, like, the phone calls and, like, it's
yeah,
kinda crazy how, like, "Oh, wow, that's, like, so perfect," you know? But
right.
Black Christmas came out in theaters December 20th, everybody, so now we are gonna nerd out about this great classic slasher. Some people say this, like, really started the true, like, modern slasher movie. I know Jeff has been on my very first episode with Psycho, which obviously was horror, obviously some slashing, but a little different than this where it's like, killer POV, killer going after girls, like, repeatedly, right? That whole thing.
Remember those idyllic scenes out of your childhood? Crisp winter nights, star bright, sleigh bells, crackling Yule logs, candlelight glistening off of shimmering Christmas trees, chestnuts roasting over open fires, carolers beneath snow-covered window ledges. Remember those? Remember them well. After Black Christmas, they'll never be the same again.
Jeff, I wanna ask you, when did you first do you remember your first memory of finding Black Christmas? Did you, like, rent it or see it on TV?
Well, so here's the thing. It's a newer find for me, and I'm actually a
Oh,
little like it wasn't something I grew up with, and
yeah.
honestly, I have to admit this. Like, I think I saw it maybe for the first time like 2 or 3 years ago. Like,
Oh, wow, okay, cool.
it's
Love
so
that.
it's a modern obsession, but we watched it on Shutter, right?
Okay, yep.
And I remember we were watching this movie, and I turned to Rick, I go, Why is no one talking about this movie? Like, why is no
Right,
one telling me, oh, what are your favorite movies? Oh, Screen, oh, was Black Christmas on your list? Like, no one has ever said that to me.
right, uh-huh.
And I feel like this should be in the top like 10, like next to Halloween and
I
like,
agree. I totally
right?
agree. It's somehow underrated still to this day. Like, maybe because they shot it in Canada, I believe, and it might have been a Canadian company, I think. So,
Right,
like, and, in the '70s, maybe it just sort of I mean, it did decently, and obviously it's still around and people love it, you know? It's
right.
obviously lasted the test of time, but totally agree. It took me a long time to I think I had discovered it, but I thought if I remember correctly, like, the cover that I saw somewhere, I was like, "Oh, that's
Yeah,
like a schlocky, like, probably bad
right,
horror movie," like a lot of these bad horror Christmas movies, right?
right.
But I forget exactly when I saw it. I think I might have seen it I could be wrong, but I've talked about it on the show before. I took a really fun horror, class in college at
Hmm.
Fordham, and I
Hmm.
feel like I discovered it around that time. Because
Oh,
then I
wow.
saw it again at, like do you remember the Sunshine Cinema down on Houston Street
Yeah,
in New York?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
loved that theater. I know it's not there anymore. I think it's, like, condos or something, right? But
Right.
I remember going and seeing it on the big screen at midnight, and that was just, like, thrilling. So,
Uh,
I had discovered it, I guess, a little later as well, but, like, I was, like, in my early 20s, and
mhm.
I totally agree. As a Scream fan and, like, When a Stranger Calls, Halloween, all these, like, classic great, phone calls and girls, getting killed, all that stuff.
Right.
Like, wow, Black Christmas is so good and yet not talked about enough, right?
Not talked about enough. And I wonder if it's because I mean, if it's because it's a Christmas movie, like
Mhm.
usually people, I know Halloween is perfect because it's up at Halloween, but
It's
like,
supposed to be spooky, yeah, mhm.
yeah, but like I wonder if it's maybe just people want to watch cheesy Hallmark Christmas movies and they don't want to like get behind a slasher or a
Right.
Christmas, you know?
And maybe you're right because at least 10 years later in '84, the same day that A Nightmare on Elm Street came out, also starring John Saxon, love this connection
Mhm,
between, like, him as a cop,
mhm.
horror classics, but the same day Nightmare came out, it was I talked about it, oh god, Silent Night, Deadly Night, is that what it's called? But, like, a Christmas slasher where, like, the killer is Santa, and that movie was, like, banned from theaters. It was only in theaters for, like, a week or 2, and then the parents group, whatever it's called, was like, "This is awful, this is disgusting," so it was actually pulled.
Oh
So,
wow.
so maybe Black Christmas was in less theaters, it was a little more under the radar, and by then,
Yeah,
10 years later, that movie was an example of, like, a big movie that was pulled. So, yeah,
right.
I think it took a while for it to really take off, which is a bummer because I think it's so well made. I think it's
It,
scary. I think it's funny. It's really well shot, right? It's
yeah.
like, oh my god, right?
Well, I think it's interesting that Bob was it Bob Clark, the director, right? Like, is he
Right.
obsessed with Christmas movies. Like
I
he's
know.
like, I'm going to make a really scary Christmas movie, and then in the 80s, I'm going to make the most iconic Christmas movie ever.
That is
Right?
not scary in any way. I mean, maybe there's like one creepy moment if you're a kid and you're like, "Ugh, I don't like how that guy looks," but
Yeah.
like Santa, right? But absolutely, I know it's wild how he made almost 10 years apart because I think A Christmas Story came out in '83, so that had an anniversary last year. But like two iconic Christmas movies that could not be any more different, right?
Right.
How
Right.
weird. We'll be right back.
A high school girl's been murdered. Mr. Harrison's daughter is missing. And now at the house where she lives, the other girls are getting obscene phone calls.
Yeah, and it was written by a guy named Roy Moore. He was the screenwriter. And I was looking online. This, I guess, was his first like produced feature screenplay. And man, what was it? I was looking up online. The original title was not Black Christmas. It was
No,
called something. Did you see this? It
yeah,
was like something
they
kind of
said
funny.
yeah, they it was called something else. Of course, we have to look it up. But
Yeah.
then they changed it back to Black Christmas, but because they originally were afraid, according to the trivia, that it was going to be. They thought people would think it's a black exploitation film, right?
Right. Which
So
I can understand, especially in the mid 70s. That was like a
right,
whole popular like subgenre, right? Yeah.
right.
Yeah. The a title, he wrote the screenplay under the title Stop Me. Stop Me. I'm like, stop me? Huh.
Isn't that a
Okay.
song?
Maybe. I'm just like, what? So Black Christmas is, I think, far more just longer lasting than Stop Me. So I'm glad they changed it, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Um, and also, I'm remembering now, yeah, you know what? I just realized, Jeff,
Hmm.
I think I discovered the original Black Christmas because of the remake in 2006 with all the stars, Lacey Chabert, all the girls, Michelle
Right.
Trachtenberg.
Right.
I think now I'm remembering because I was in college at that time and I was like, oh, this looks so fun. And then I think I discovered the original. I just got it. Yeah. Did you see that one in theaters probably?
No, I didn't see it because
Oh,
I
okay.
think that wasn't. How many remakes are there? There are two other remakes. There's like
There's three total. There's the original and then the two remakes. Yeah, the 2006 and then 2019, which takes like a supernatural cult angle. Spoilers, whatever. I won't say anymore because I saw it once and I was kind of falling asleep. People
yeah,
hate the latest one. Did you
yeah.
check that one out
No,
at all?
no, but we did watch the second one. I thought it was okay. I think is it
Oh yeah.
someone Willis is in it? Isn't it one of the Willis sisters? I think.
I think you might be right. It's like all those girls at the time, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and then of
Right.
course Andrea Martin, the great Andrea
And
Martin, came
it's
back
great.
as their den mother, right? So that was fun to have her back. And it's more violent, it's kind of more colorful, it's campy. It's like a horror
Yeah.
comedy, but it's definitely horror from what I remember. I loved it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so crazy. You see much more of Agnes. We'll get into like Agnes and
Right.
Billy. Like, so they're doing some different things with it, whereas this one is much more restrained. That one
Right.
is like, if you want the loud version, go see 2006, But yeah, I just realized that's when it took the remake for me to discover the original and be like, oh wow, there's this like slasher that I didn't even know about, much like you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but like, so we talked about writer director.
Mhm.
Bob Clark directed. Now let's just briefly talk quickly about like the actors because this cast I love, Jeff. Like we got scream queens, we got comedy queens. So like Olivia Hussey, who I first discovered in Psycho 4, which was a TV movie. Did you ever see
Oh,
Psycho 4?
yes.
Where
Yes.
she's
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
mother. She's
Yeah.
Norman's
Yeah.
mother.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So like as a kid and like I guess that was like late 80s, early 90s, like watching that on TV, I was like, oh, so when I see Black Christmas, I'm like, oh, Norman Bates' mother, like I'm like backwards.
Well, and
But
I'm like, oh,
she
yeah.
is so good as Jess. Is she like a worthy scream queen for you? Like a
Yeah,
final
I'm
girl?
as I'm rewatching it, I rewatched it this week, and I'm like, what? I know her from Romeo and Juliet, and I
Of
think I saw
course.
her, in middle school or whatever, high school probably.
Yes.
But like, I'm trying to think, what else is she really? She has. I know she did a lot back then, but like, is she still
Yeah.
alive? Right? Is she
I
still alive?
believe she's still alive. Yep. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
still around. She's
I
like,
didn't do any stuff.
I've done it all, darling. And also,
Black Christmas is
she's
enough.
she's hoarse from screaming into that phone. I mean, and she's got a great scream, but like from the get-go, hello, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
whoa, you gotta see someone about the anger with the phone calls, but we understand, she's getting repeated calls, we get it, but that was my first note. I was like, whoa, Olivia Hussey is just screaming just from the start, she just is letting us know the
Right.
volume is up high, right? But I love her in this movie. I love her look. I love the fashion. Like she's got
Mhm.
that cool, like it looks like this kind of like the hands on
Right.
her sweater and like the long dark hair, which then, has that awesome moment later on with,
Right.
Billy pulling the hair. That is so crazy and shocking. Yeah, I just love her as this lead. I think she's a really good final girl, and I kind of forgot because, I've seen this a bunch, but it's been a while. I forgot how the ending is sort of like open ended. We don't
Yeah.
know if she makes it
I
out.
I don't know if it's because every time I watch this, like I have a glass of wine or whatever, but like
Yeah,
I, I'm like, oh my gosh, like because at one point I rewound. I know we're skipping, but like I
yeah,
rewound to where Barb, Margot Kidder's character
yes,
gets killed. I'm like, no, we clearly see Peter and like looking up at her, and then I
right,
rewound, and it's really just you see a little eye, and it's
yes. Oh, that
probably
iconic, right?
yeah, but yeah, the way that it's left so open-ended, I mean, it's like a masterpiece,
It
it's
really is. It really is, Jeff. And it's so funny, again, going back to Scream, how I think, like, I know Scream really, Kevin Williamson loved, like, Halloween, which we all love, but, like,
Mm.
I think Black Christmas DNA is all over Scream, especially with the main suspect is Peter,
Right,
Jess's boyfriend, Keir Dalia. How crazy to go from 2001: A Space Odyssey to this, like, whoa.
right,
And he's
right,
so good and so brooding, and we do not trust him at all. And we think basically the entire time it's not a whodunit, it's him. But
right.
then the phone is ringing and there's like, I think still whispering at the end, and it's like, oh my God, there's still someone in the house,
Yeah,
right?
well,
Or at least someone around. Oh,
yeah,
terrifying.
we never know who the person is, but and if you listen, it's, Agnes, he keeps it's P Billy. Billy's that he calls himself Billy, the killer,
Yep. Yep.
and maybe that's like a Billy Loomis reference, maybe.
Exactly. Mhm.
And then, uh, twist my words here. And then he's always calling out for Agnes. Agnes,
Yes.
like who's Agnes? My biggest thing after rewatching this though.
Yeah.
So you're telling me this house is being like people are dying left and right. It's a murder house, but yet no one's checked the attic. Like, why are we not checking the attic? Like, what is? Let's just
You're
check
right.
the attic. What's
You're
going on
you're
up there?
so right. Check every room, guys. Like, go in a
Right,
group or have the cops, like, it's funny how, yeah, no what you're so right. No one's doing a very thorough job of, like, really, like, looking around, except for Miss Mac, the boozy den mother, who's only going up there to get her cat when it's like, "Your cat's
right.
not up there, lady. Your cat is not up there." But how again, Jeff, how absolutely scary that, like, there's a human meowing, like, that is just so sick and twisted to me,
Right,
right? Like, from
right.
up there, like, "Meow," like, that is so oh my god, this
Yeah.
killer is brutal, you know? It might not be the most violent movie, but he chills me to the bone, like, this
Yeah.
guy is no joke, right?
Which is okay. We don't sometimes I like that it's so subtle, and we're
Mhm.
talking about like favorite scenes. I mean, I will say, I think the beginning of the movie,
Mhm.
and where, she's going through the first, is it Claire? Yeah, Claire. Um,
Right, Claire, oh god. Yep.
and going through her closet and we know somebody's in there.
Yeah.
Like we're just waiting for them to pop out. Like we think we're gonna see a face, but then the minute we do, it cuts to the killer's point of view. I mean,
Yes.
it's just remarkable, like filmmaking.
It
It's
is. It really plays with your expectations because you know someone's there, especially once we and this movie right off the bat, I do love how it starts and we're seeing and I mean, I love the handheld kind of like fisheye. Like it seems very
yeah,
kind of warped his point
yeah,
of view, which is brilliant just to really help us know along with the breathing that like this is him climbing in and like there's no I mean it just starts like that. The exterior of the house and now we are the guy coming in and then he's behind that plastic, but it's just like, when is he gonna come out? Like, when
right,
is it going to happen?
right,
So, she's gonna die, but the twist is actually, I'm gonna play with you on just how long it's gonna take for her to, like, get
get
killed, you know?
right, right, right,
Oh, I love that scene, and again, the meowing, he does that, that's the first time he does that, is in
yeah,
her closet. Oh, he's deranged, and then she's, of course, the iconic image on, like, the poster, in that rocking chair with that plastic, in her mouth, sick, around a wreath. I mean, like,
yeah,
deranged, right? I
right.
love it.
There was a little girl murdered over in the park tonight. Yes, I heard. Your phone's ringing.
I'm thinking about the body count, right? And because and like the police don't ever, who do the police find outside?
Yeah, so let's talk about that because I love this movie, but every time I watch it, I get a little annoyed that I'm like, "Oh yeah, there's this like murder of this teen girl and like what does that have to do with anything?"
Right.
Do you on this latest rewatch, I'm getting the impression that Billy killed her.
Right. Yeah.
And it is related to him. It's just not related to our main sorority. Do you get that
Right.
vibe too? That like that was Billy's doing, or do you get the vibe that like that's just like a distraction for everyone? What
No,
do you
I think
think?
it's possible he killed whoever that was.
Right.
But I think it's funny that like the main two people that are killed in the house, like I still can't believe they don't inspect that attic.
I
They'd find two
know.
dead people just sitting up, rotting up there. Like, how long are they going to
I
stay up there?
know. You're right, and I did realize on this I'm a nerd and I love doing this, especially with slashers. I love to know how much time in the story has passed, and I
Hmm.
realized with Black Christmas, it's pretty short. It starts on the first night, we have 1 day, and then I think everything else happens all in the next night. It's really only the span of, like, I don't know, maybe, like, 26 hours or
Right.
30 hours or more, like it doesn't go
Yeah.
on for days like some of these
Right.
like Exorcist goes on for day. So
Right.
yeah, I was thinking like, yeah, wouldn't they like, realize there's a smell or something? But actually, I guess not, maybe
Yeah.
not in
Yeah.
that time frame, and then also in the cold. So yeah, Billy's so smart for choosing Christmas as the time to kill people. But yeah, like with the whole Agnes thing, it's so fascinating and his dialogue, the lines that Billy says both on the phone and in his whispers and his screams,
Right.
he's obviously extremely unwell. We know that. You wouldn't be
Yeah.
killing people if you were well, but the way he's screaming and he keeps saying, "What your mother and I want to know is like, where's the baby? What did you do with Agnes?" Right?
Hello?
Hey, Mommy. There's the baby. Baby, all right, Mom. Just a minute.
Who's there?
I know you're there, Nasty Billy. You answer me in spirit.
I took it as I think he killed Agnes, his little sister, and
Mhm.
he killed this teen girl in town as like a way to I don't know, that riled him up again, like because he killed
Right.
Agnes? I don't know, that's, like, my personal take. I don't know if that makes any sense or if you agree?
I think it makes sense. I think some of the things that are said in the movie, like there's a couple things happening here, like the
Yeah.
term, like hearing the C word. I don't want to say it.
Oh, Jeff. Oh my god, it's
Like
brutal.
see you
Yeah.
next Tuesday. It's like,
Uh-huh.
wow. And like, can you just the idea of getting a phone call like that and like,
Mhm.
Margot Kidder is just like, she's
Oh
trying to
my
get back
god,
in there.
Barb. She is just the best. Don't we love Barb? Like, she I feel like she's like Tatum in Scream, she's like Helen and I Know What You Did Last Summer, like,
Yeah.
she's that sidekick who like, just is like a firecracker and like, "Man, that would have been great if you lived, but you just we
Yeah.
gotta surprise the audience," right? Yeah, she's so good. But that scene, what you're talking about, the first, like, real call when we
Yeah.
not only are it's also so smart. We're introduced to our main group, but also the killer and what's been happening. Whoa, like, this movie is not for kids. What he's saying and I love that, like, slow close-up on all their faces as they're
Hmm.
listening. Like,
Hmm.
we're getting right to it. There's no, like, opening death of, like, a stranger, and now we're slowly gonna meet everyone. Like, no, everyone's here and having a party. Right
Right.
upstairs, someone's getting killed. Like, we just jump right in, and I think it's brilliant that way? If
Yeah.
there's no slow moment in this movie. I'd say the slowest moment might be a little bit with, like, Claire's dad, but it makes
Yeah.
sense at the same time. Like,
Right.
I like that we see a parent who's actually being proactive and, like, because in so many of these movies, like, where are the parents? Like, you're not
Right.
gonna call or check in or, like, so
Right.
I do
Right.
appreciate that dad is, like, investigating it himself? It just
Yes.
goes off on it goes a little off the rails when, like, with him and Miss Mac and, like, she's, like, covering the poster and she wants to really
Right.
impress him, like, now we're
Right.
getting into, like, a fun '70s romp,
Right.
okay, sure. Like, when she's sitting on the steps, I just remember and I think she might be drinking again because she drinks a lot,
Yeah.
and she hears the cat or something. I think she hears the killer, and she's
Mhm.
like, Claude, God damn it. And then Claire's dad's right there, and she's just like, hi, and
Right.
like giving him the finger, and like
Right.
she's a character. Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um
they created her well. I mean, I loved the idea that like, well, first of all, den mother, is that like a thing in a sorority? Like, I need some back. Like, you have 90
Great
year olds
question.
den mothers, like they're 90 years old, just hiding.
Great question. I wish I knew, Jeff. I know. I only know the term den mother from this movie and the remake. Like, I don't even know in the new one. I don't even know if they have a den mother, actually. They might have gotten rid of it because maybe that was like a thing of the past.
Yeah, what I've done is I've tapped this phone so that when it rings, it'll ring at the station house too.
Did you weren't in a fraternity, were you?
No, I was not.
No.
No.
So, like, I know nothing about that life. And you've never heard of like a den father. Like, guys didn't have it. So was it like back in the day, was there a den mother to like, I don't know, keep the girls in line? Like, what? What is it for? Right? It's so weird. You
I
would think
know.
like the senior, whoever's like the oldest in the house, is sort of like, I don't know, the leader. I don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Like a resident eight, like a RA or something,
Like an
right?
R, yeah, exactly. RA, yeah, for sure. Like, yeah. So, but instead they have this woman who they all love,
Yeah.
and she's got a great death. Oh my God, Jeff, talk about body count when she goes up there, and again, like the way this film is shot is
Mm,
so really smart, and like really like burns into your brain with some of these shots, like
right.
he's holding that like I guess it's like a hanging like hook kind of thing. I
Yeah.
don't even know what it's called,
Yeah.
a rope, and she slowly turns and we can, oh my God, just brutal, right? And then she's hanging from it later, like,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, I think
Yeah.
she. What did they say? They shot that in like 40 days or something. Like I think that was
Oh, okay.
really, it was a
Yeah.
quick shoot, but just yeah, every little every little camera angle. Yeah, why is
Right.
that hook up there? Who knows? Why we do? Did they need a
Right.
hook in the end? Right, but it's a great death scene.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, a random attic in an old house. They have like a hook, a hanging hook thing. It's
Right.
cool, whatever, right? But yeah,
Right.
bringing up the filming time, this feels a little scrappy in like a great way. Like it feels a little almost like indie, low budget, like, but like you said, like yeah, they took great care in shots and in the script, and I mean the actors I think are great. Like
Yeah.
I going back to Olivia Hussey for a second, like Jeff, I've seen this movie a bunch of times now, but when I
Yeah.
was rewatching the other night alone with the lights off, I still get so creeped out. Oh my God, something just fell on my face. The heck? Oh my God.
Do you have something in your attic?
Oh my God. I should put that hook away before someone uses it on me. But Jeff, when Jess, Olivia Hussey,
Yeah.
finds out on the phone, we're at the end, right? I know we're jumping around, but we're at the end. We're in this iconic moment where even though John Saxon has told the cop, don't tell her anything, just tell her to walk out the door. And
Right.
she's not getting it. And he says, Jess, the call is coming from inside the house, basically, right? Which we hear later on in When a Stranger Calls, and it's the whole urban legend thing, right?
Yeah.
When she learns that, I mean, I just love her performance. And the house is silent. Like there's not a lot of music, and it's just these dark, quiet rooms. And when she is screaming at the top of her lungs for her friends who
Mhm.
she knows, like, they ain't responding. She
Right.
knows it, but she just
Right.
she can't not. Oh, my, what does she say? Barb, Phil, that's Andrea Martin. Phil, answer me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. But it's quiet. I feel for her. Like that to me is terrifying. That is true horror right there. When but you just don't want to accept it, and you're desperate, and your hand is on the door. Oh, but then she goes upstairs, and it's like, Jess, come on, you know better. But she didn't know the rules yet. They were
You know,
just
and
she was starting the rules basically.
starting the rules. Well, and again, like we with going back to talking about Halloween, right? So
Yeah.
Halloween was, and Peeping Tom and Black Christmas are
Right.
one of the first movies to
Mhm.
do, the point of view of the killer. But
Yeah.
again, I've never heard anyone credit Black Christmas as, I remember when Scream came out, like I remember, people talking about Suspiria and how that was
Right.
such an inspiration, and some of the earlier horror movies, but it just doesn't. We need to do a campaign. We need to
I
campaign
agree. I
back on
know.
you know?
I really wonder what it was. Maybe people, like you were saying, they just maybe thought it was schlocky. It was Christmas. Who wants to watch that? Like, it might have been a little ahead of its time that way, that like
Probably.
it didn't find an audience. I don't know, but it's so well done, Jeff. It's spooky. Greg does not like it. I don't know why. He also just doesn't like old movies. So
Oh,
like he's
yeah.
also not a fan of Halloween. I'm like, okay, you need to get past like how things look. All right.
Oh,
Like there are like these are classic movies. I mean, he's okay with it, but like Black Christmas, I'm like, do you want to watch it again? And he's like, no, 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 that's all you. I'm good. One was more than enough. I'm like,
oh
you are
no.
crazy. Crazy.
That's
Right?
divorce speak.
Tell me about it. That's why I'm like, okay, we're not having a great month. You can go to your room. I'm
Go to
watching
your,
my movie. All right.
go to
Um, go to your room
go to
because
the attic.
my room is now in front of the TV. Yeah, you can go up with the hook in the attic and you can think about what you've done. Okay.
No, well, remind me, was what was the other movie? Because Margot was a scream queen. Margot Kidder was kind of a scream queen. She did the what was the Amityville Horror? Was that
She
before or
did
after this?
Amityville. Amityville was after. She was a little bit older. That was in the 70s though, Jeff. Yeah, that was 79,
Yeah.
5 years later. So
Oh,
and this was it's so interesting. Yeah, it went Black Christmas and then Superman and then
right.
Amityville. So like, whoa, her career at
Oh,
this time was really, I mean, she was a big deal. And she very much feels kind of like for a while, kind of like a co-lead. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like it feels like
yeah,
Olivia Hussey and like Margot Kidder. Like I think we meet her first. And like
right.
she is such a bold, she is so different than everyone else. She's got some amazing lines. Like I wrote down some notes, Jeff. She says to her mom on the phone, because it starts basically with her having like an argument with her mom. She
Hmm.
says, "You're a real gold-plated whore, mother. You know that?" It's like that's like one of the first lines anyone in the movie says. It's like, wow, this movie pulls me in immediately. Like, what's to
Yeah,
hate? You know?
yeah. Well, and even I think my first note was what's with Margot's choker collar? Like that her choker is like the size of my like turtleneck thing here.
Yes.
It just like consumes her whole neck, which is probably on purpose, right? It's
Right.
supposed
Right.
to
Covering the hickeys. Right.
right. But no, side note, Margot Kidder. Did you ever see the movie Sister with
Oh, Jeff,
with?
I'm so glad you're bringing this up. I am ashamed to say I have not. I still
Oh
haven't
yeah,
seen it.
you need to watch it. First of
Yeah.
all, it's early Brian De Palma.
Right.
um, and it still packs a little punch. It's like it's early
I bet.
Brian, early
Yeah.
diploma, but it still packs a punch, and Margot's great.
I
Um,
bet. And
like you, I
that
do,
must have been right after this, right? Because I think that was oh yeah, oh no, it's right before. Oh wow, she was in Sisters before this. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, wow. Yeah, I am slacking. I gotta watch that.
yeah.
Wow.
And and I do have a Margot Kidder story for you. When should I
Tell
tell?
me. Oh,
Oh my gosh.
yes.
So Mark, picture it. 2001 or two. I'm working at Old Navy in Buffalo, the Walden Galleria Mall, and it's springtime, and I'm floating around the store, and I see this woman, and I'm like, oh my god, like that's Margot Kidder. Like
Oh my
Margot Kidder
God.
just
In Buffalo.
came
Wow.
into Old Navy in
In
Buffalo.
Old Navy. Yeah.
Yeah, of all things. And I remember this, like, so she comes in, she's like, sweetheart, do you have, I need some gloves. I need, my hands are so cold. And she's got that,
Yeah.
that way of speaking. And I was like, sure, right this way. And it was like kind of April. So it was like, I remember we did have,
Still chilly.
it's always cold in
Yeah.
Buffalo, but like it was starting to warm up, but then it got cold again. So I show her the small selection, and I'm like, excuse me, miss, by the way, are you Margot Kidder? And she's like, well, yes, I am, sweetheart. How are you? And I go, I'm great, but like, I'm sorry, what are you doing in Buffalo? Right. And she's
Right.
like, well, it just so happens that I'm in the vagina monologues downtown. You should come see it. And you know what? I did.
Oh, I love that. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I was so excited, and I'm like, I told her I was a big fan because obviously it was Spider-Man, and now of course I
Yeah.
can't
Superman. Right.
Super
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Superman. Thank you.
Yep.
And just being enamored with that role, and
Right.
then seeing her in person, I was like, oh my
Oh
gosh.
yeah. She's
And
an
then again,
icon.
this was after obviously all the the stuff that happened with her, and mental illness, and all that.
Right. Yeah,
So,
yeah, because I know, like, towards the end of her life yeah, what did she suffer was she also an alcoholic, or am I wrong? Was there, like, some
I think she
substance
had
stuff?
I think she had some bipolar disorder. I think maybe something like that.
Okay, I think yeah, I remember there was so and like and it kind of showed she really kind of aged and yeah,
Yeah,
got like that voice. Yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
hear you.
But
Yeah.
she was a
Oh,
really sweet in person,
was she
and
good in the show?
in the show, yeah. I mean, it was my first time seeing the vagina monologues, and I'm like, wow,
Right.
what a perfect way to start this like introduction into you know
Theater and
theater. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, I
yeah,
love that story, Jeff. I love that she was nice to you. Like it seems like she's kind of like Barb, like kind of
right,
gruff that I could see her
right,
being like,
right.
"Yeah, like can you fucking help me out?" But I like that she was cool with you, you know?
Yeah,
That's
no,
so sweet.
she was just
Did you try to, like, see her after the show, or, like, was there, like, any sort
no.
of, like, stage door or anything, or no?
No, I think it was a small theater in Buffalo downtown. I don't, forgot the name of it now. And
Yeah.
I was just happy that like I can still remember this story, the interaction in the mall. Like that to me is like
Yeah.
it's such a sweet little, you
I
know,
love that.
little to do. But
That's a big one, yeah, that's a good
yeah,
memory for sure.
yeah.
Aw. Too bad you didn't see Black Christmas, because then you coulda raved about this
I
with her,
know, I know. I mean,
right?
if she had told me, sweetheart, go see the vagina monologues and then watch my original, movie, I'd be like, you got it.
Right, you'd be like, "Wow, okay, sure, yes, ma'am," right?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man. Just, like, such a great cast, and even Andrea Martin, who we know is such a funny like, I have an Andrea Martin story. I sat next to her
Ooh,
at the Laurie Beekman Theater? It's, like, 42nd and Ninth, I wanna
yeah,
say, and
absolutely.
it's like a drag, like, theater under a restaurant. We went years ago to a reading of the play Dog Sees God that later I did, and I love that show, but she
Mhm.
was there at our little it's like a cabaret style, right? So, like, little tables. She was there right next to us. I sat right next to her, and it was, like, amazing. I'm like, "You're Andrea Martin," you know? So, like, how fun to see her really become such a comedy queen of, like, film, TV, theater, but this was,
Right,
like, pretty serious for her. You actually, like, really kind of feel for her. She's, like, the most stressed, I feel like, film,
right.
this pair
Yeah,
like, she's working
yeah,
with the cops a lot. She's working with that, like, hunky guy who's, like, a friend, like, I think
right,
oh, it's, like, Claire's boyfriend. Like,
right.
she's really proactive, and then she falls for that trap, opening the
Right,
door,
right.
opening Barb's door, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
just yeah, then all of a sudden they're lying there together. Talk about sisters. I mean, geez, they're, like, lying there
I know.
bloody. Oh, and Barb's death. We have to talk about Barb's death. I love her death. I know you mentioned the iconic, like, shot
Yeah,
of his eye, but,
yeah,
like, using the unicorn and, like, also how that was filmed really blew my mind because
right.
it's a very artistically shot, like, death because it's, like, her hand, but with the ornaments but real quick, I do just wanna say, I think it's weird, and maybe it was, like, a scheduling thing, but it's
Mhm.
weird how Margot is so in the movie, and then all of a sudden, she's just
Gone.
gone,
Yeah,
right? You really
yeah,
feel that absence, like,
yeah.
okay, she drank too much and she's sleeping. I'm like, "Okay, but we're, like, not even cutting to her that much." Like, we
Right.
we don't cut to her until she's basically about to die. So, that felt a little like, I wonder if her schedule just she was doing something else or something, you know?
Yeah, I think I read, again, one of some of the notes that they weren't all I mean, I know it happens in movies, but that they weren't all together. Like,
Right, okay.
they did a lot of their scenes in isolation or
And she's, like, the toughest one, so you kinda want her to, like, live to help Jess, but
right.
man, Jess is all alone. So yeah, I just oh my god, going back to the ending, it's just so scary when Jess is in this creepy house. Oh, man, and the hair pull, and then in the basement when, like, Peter is the most shady and, like oh, well, we gotta talk about Peter. Wow, we
Oh,
have
yeah,
lots before we go, I wanna hear your thoughts about Peter because it's really crazy how this is a 50-year-old movie, but some of the topics they're discussing feel
oh my gosh.
extremely right?
Like,
That's crazy.
I have not heard the term abortion like they used in this movie, right? And it's like,
Right,
that was oh, yeah, I was using the C word. That was, like, one thing.
right.
I'm like, "Wow, the '70s are really upping up their women's lib,"
Yeah.
right? Like, it's,
Yes, we are talking about women's bodies for sure, yeah, in this movie, and men especially are talking about their bodies, but,
right,
yeah, just what a crazy relationship with Peter, and he's this high-strung, very stressed, like, pianist, and I totally forgot he, like, breaks the piano, and then I love the
right.
shot of John Saxon later, like, as he's, like, really looking around, like, turning on the light and seeing like, I just love John Saxon in this movie. In Nightmare, he's like, "Oh, whatever, Nancy," but here he's like, he actually believes the girls, so
Right,
it's
right.
it's it's fun to see him, like, really, like, onto something with Peter,
Yeah.
but, yeah, the whole abortion thing, like, I don't want you to kill the baby, you know, and she's done with
Right,
him and he's
right.
freaking out over this thing that's not your decision to make, he kind of says. Like, it's just wild how like we're hearing a lot of that nowadays in politics. So like
Right.
kind of
Well,
freaky how like, shit, nothing's really changed in like 50
nothing's
years, you
changed.
know? He even says he's like, I don't want to live with a bunch of roommates anymore. I want to get married and have a house. And like, he's like very unhappy in his life, right? But I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
sorry, go back to your room. Go to your room. Like, instead,
Right, right.
he like is wandering around the cold. It's Christmas break. I mean, I
Yeah,
assume some of your roommates are gone. That's also brilliant, you know, to have. That's why I just love this movie in general, and any movie at college, especially where it's like holiday break. It's so smart because very few people are around, right? So like you probably
right.
have your room to yourself. Go, but instead he's like wandering around the house and like he even kind of like squats down by the tree looking at the cops and it's like you are crazy. You are like no wonder she dumped you, Peter. Go
Right.
away, right?
Scram. It's group 140, terminal 55.
Hey Rewinders, I'm putting this call on hold for just a second to tell you that there's another horror movie you can watch at home tonight. My new short film, which is a horror comedy called Cast and Kill. I wrote, directed, and produced it, and it's now streaming on the new indie film site Sparrow. So check it out, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, now it's not just Jeff and me who love the original Black Christmas. Here are my friends, Katie Bruno and Rudy Valdez, with their thoughts about The Moaner.
I'm so far behind on this horror train that I never saw Black Christmas. But okay, here are my thoughts. It was great. It was a quintessential 1970s horror movie. Loved it. But I just have some like qualms in terms of like storyline. Why did no one check the attic? Like, come on, guys. Like, what I actually thought was surprising about the movie was that there wasn't a lot of kills. There was really only like 4 or 5 murders. Like in horror movie, the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot. Like I was kind of surprised at that. It was kind of a slow burn. Like it wasn't like murder all. It was like with the phone calls, it was super creepy, like very, very cool. Like I like that slow burn build up creepiness. Very, very well done. I like that they had a lot of character development. Loved Margot Kidder. Oh my gosh, she's hilarious. She is like my spirit animal, like drinking a beer at the police station. Hell yeah, girl. What? I love that Olivia Hussey is in this. She's kind of a low-key horror queen. I always remember her from Psycho 4, which is not a great movie, but like, it's still a horror movie. And also It. She plays, I think it's like John Ritter's girlfriend, but yeah, and she's in the original Romeo and Juliet, which we were forced to watch in high school. So, props to her. Gorgeous, awesome. I also have to mention this movie came out in 1974. Literally, Roe v. Wade and abortion became legal like a year before, and this movie tackles the subject of abortion like pretty boldly and bravely. I have to give this movie props to have the lead female character stand her ground, say, this is my choice, to her asshole boyfriend who's like, no, you need to marry me and have the baby and shut up. Like, props to this movie for tackling that at that time.
Hey, Mark, it's Rudy. One thing that I really like about this movie is the cast of characters, mostly the sorority sisters. They all just were very much like different, yet the same, similar. You truly believe that these women, these characters, could be friends. They didn't like fall into any kind of like tropes or characters that we've seen much later in life, as far as like with other genres of films and TV shows. They all were just like fun, smart, a little fragile, like people can be, but they all just were a cohesive unit in a way, and you just really cared about them. You could tell they cared about each other, and it was just fun to watch. And Olivia Hussey was just so great, and I do really adored Margaret Kidder. She was phenomenal, just so much fun. Like she was really a highlight of the film. I wish we were able to see more of her acting later in life, but we do have this this film to look back on her and stuff. So that's all I wanted to say. Happy holidays. Thank you for listening.
It's interesting too. I'm trying to think of another movie where they've cut away from like the final battle, right? Like because they actually don't show them fighting.
Right.
They show him get closer. She's got the poker ready. Cut to the other scene, and then when the cops find them at the end, and you're like, I wonder if they like filmed that scene and just decided that the tussling wouldn't have worked, because then when you see them both lying there, and you think they're both dead. And then she picks up her head, and of course she's okay. It's just right when you
I totally hear you. It's like it's an interesting choice to hide that. I guess maybe Bob Clark wanted to, and the writer Roy Moore, maybe it's in the script, maybe to just keep us on our toes, because we all think it's Peter, right? Peter is Billy. That I assume in reality maybe there isn't a fight. Or he tries to grab him and be like, what are you doing? And she just starts like stabbing him with it, and they don't want us to know that happened until the end when she's lying there. When I love how every cop, except for one outside, leaves her to just, I'm like, okay, there have been murders. This girl has been attacked. You're not going to just have one person just sit outside the room? Guys, right?
Also, like maybe take her to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Like,
instead, they like knock her out. They're like, "Oh, she'll be sleeping all night long." It's like, okay, well, can we get a nurse? Like, can someone come to the house? Right? But like, maybe that was intentional to not show the scuffle, the fight, so that we all realize right as the credits roll that there's the killer is still there, which is and I love to this day. I think it is so brilliant and like so modern, like of 2024, like a movie like today would do it. No ending music. It's just the ringing phone getting louder and louder through the credits. Brilliant. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was a budget thing, but it works, guys. Like good, right?
Well, isn't it just crazy when you think about any horror movie now, how like it's not always guaranteed to be good, right? And it's like, here are these guys in the 70s, no budget, no money, making these like well-crafted movies, not even just horror movie, but like a well-crafted movie. And like now with all the resources, all the technology, all the effects, and it can be like trash. I mean,
most of the times it's trash, and you're like, the budget was how much, right?
Right. Ugh. And like, even I don't know if we talked about this maybe on the last podcast with for The Exorcist, but like the remake of that was like I thought it was terrible.
I know.
I'm so glad. Is it Mike Flanagan?
Mike Flanagan's taking over, which he is great. I love so much of his work. So it's interesting though. They're not going to continue that story. Like I just feel so embarrassed. Like for Ellen Burstyn and for so and so. I'll just stop. I'll cut that out. But like the end of that. Oh, like now it's like, well, what's going to happen? But they are scrapping that overall story because it's like a trilogy. They're scrapping that completely. And like now Mike Flanagan is just starting with a new story, new characters. And it's just, I just feel embarrassed for them because it's like, yikes, guys. Like, that one was not good. It just felt out of all these like reboots and new sequels, that one especially felt the most cash grabby, redundant, tone deaf, like
like these are your people, and we're gonna see it, but we want to also like see it again. I'm not gonna watch Halloween Kills and Ends again. Like I'll probably watch the
2018 one is probably the best and most rewatchable of that trio. Mike Flanagan can steer that franchise in the right direction.
I think he'll, and even his, I love Dr. Sleep. I don't know if you've
I loved it. Right? I think it's great. Like, yeah, I totally agree. In the 70s, I don't know if it was lack of resources or a lot of fresh perspectives that we now take for granted, because a lot of these stories are actually, quite straightforward, but like at the time, like, I mean, in the 70s we had, like, we talked about The Exorcist, Black Christmas, Alien, Texas Chainsaw also turned 50. I mean, Carrie, Sisters, Suspiria. I mean, it's wild. That decade was like so creative.
Black Christmas, starring Olivia Hussey, Keir Dullea, Margot Kidder, and starring John Saxon as Lieutenant Fuller. If this movie doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight.
Out of all the deaths we've discussed, because we've basically talked about all the big ones, which one is your favorite in Black Christmas? Do you have one that you just love watching?
I will say I do love, because I'm a big Margot fan, Margot Kidder, Barb. I think that scene's my favorite.
That
you know.
scene, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's
Absolutely.
so interesting. Yeah. It's more than just like, because, you know, you don't really see the stabs, but they, like we were saying, they frame it in such an interesting way where as he's stabbing, you see her hand. It's so like, it's like,
Well,
it really kind of doesn't fall in line with all the other scenes, but I
no.
kind of like that. It's like
Right.
this weird little unique, like they were playing around that day. They're like, well, let's like go against what we've been doing and like shoot with different lenses or something. Right.
Right.
But
Well,
it totally
I think
works.
it was like an ode to the shower scene in Psycho. You know, it's like
Yeah.
you see the killer for a moment or a
You're so
shadow.
right.
If you
Yeah.
do, and the cutaways. I mean, and
That's
it's
a
just,
great point. And
you know,
also, Jeff, I love it's so brilliant. They're cutting back and forth. Jess can't hear Margot's character Barb screaming because,
right.
of
The
course,
carol.
this choir of kids, right? Yes, the
Right.
carolers.
Yeah.
Brilliant. For
Yeah.
me, favorite deaths, Barb's is great. I mean, there's no bad death. I also even love the creepy reveal of the one cop that's been sitting outside the house.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
like the
Oh
slow
yeah.
like camera, you know,
Yeah.
I love that the camera's almost always moving in this movie. I
Yeah.
kind of forget because like when I'm watching a movie or making a movie, like I don't always think like, yeah, like, but the cameras, the zooms on Jess, on Miss Mac, like on the realizations and like the pans to reveal. Beautiful, brilliant.
Right.
But I guess my favorite death, oh gosh, Jeff, there's just something about Miss Mac with that hook thing and like how he's holding it and shaking it and like just that
Yeah.
whole reveal and how she's funny and still a little funny when she like realized when she sees Claire, but it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's just, oh yeah. I there's something about that one I just love. But like I said, they all are top tier. Poor Phil, we don't really see her die, but we at least we know what's happening because that door
Right.
shuts and then you know.
Right.
But going back to the ending where we go back to Jess and Peter and they both look dead. That also made me think of Scream 2 at the ending because
Oh yeah.
remember when
Because
I think it's yeah,
they both look dead.
they
They
both
Gail.
fall. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it takes Sydney a while to like cough. Then like for a
Right.
second, I remember like when you first see, it, you're like, "Oh shit, who died?" You know, or did they both? Did it go through them both? So I
Right.
wonder if that was Scream 2 kind of paying a little bit of homage here, where it's like, wait, are they both dead? What happened? You know.
Right.
So just wanted to shout out that connection as well. You know.
I guess it maybe bombed a little bit, or did it make a lot of money?
I guess in Canada the box office was 1.3 million, and according to Wiki, it was 4 million worldwide. So I mean, this was 50 years ago, so not 4 million
Right.
today, but you've heard higher numbers. So yeah, I guess
Sure.
maybe theatrically not a huge moment, right?
Right. Well, I was just thinking that could have been. I mean, that could have been a great franchise. I mean, I maybe
You're so right.
at least have a sequel. And I guess they decided why not just reboot it. 20 years
Yes.
later, 30 years
Yeah.
later. But yeah, I think out of the movies that have these like other masterpieces that we've seen, I mean,
Yeah.
this could have definitely had a nice little franchise. That was just
I
my
think so too, because I wouldn't be surprised if that was the plan to explore more with Agnes, what and Billy, obviously, because he's still alive. So like, what's the family dynamic? But yeah, I have a feeling, and especially because he uses the C word and like says like, I want to lick your piggy
yeah.
seed. Like I just get this vibe, and maybe it's me, but like I think he like molested his little sister and then like killed her. I feel like that's what happened or something, and
That-
maybe he did it again with this teen, in the park or whatever. Like, so yeah, it's a really fun movie, but it has a really dark, twisted like core to it. It's not like you're laughing and you're having fun as like it's thrilling, but like, right? It's like, ooh,
yeah.
we're getting nasty here.
Well, if
Like,
they were to do that now, they would definitely like remake the movie, and then
yeah,
the sequel would be like the prequel, right? We would get the
right.
backstory, right?
Yeah,
And then we find out maybe there'd have to be a third movie that like maybe he gets caught or he keeps going. But there,
right.
I could see it's a trilogy, kind of like a
Oh yeah.
Pearl,
Right, a pearl. You're right, where we're kind of playing with time, like now we're going forward, now we're, yeah, I could totally see that because there is more in a perfect way. It's so open-ended and like very vague, so you could explore that. Although sometimes it's maybe best to not explore that and just keep it how it is, right? But I know in the 2006 remake, which I want to rewatch. If you rewatch it this month, let me know what you think now, years later. But
Yeah.
I want to check it out because I do remember like Agnes has much more to do. She's actually a character. There's a lot of flashbacks,
Right.
so it's almost like, yeah, like it's a remake, but like a sort of prequel in a way. They wanted to expand more of that, which I think I liked it, but I guess maybe some people don't like that. Now I'm being told what happened, where it's maybe scarier if I'm imagining, right?
Sure. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But as
Yeah.
far as I know, that 2019 one, I don't think there's any Agnes. I don't even know if the killer's name is Billy. Like it's basically Black Christmas in that it's called that, and it's a sorority of girls fighting off a killer.
Mhm.
Uh, but any other details are, from what I remember, all new stuff, totally different story. So,
Well, I think
co-starring Carrie Elwes as like the dean of the college. So,
oh
kind of
my
fun to
god.
see him. So, yeah,
Yeah. Well, I think I did see I looked up, this woman, I think it's Claire, I forgot her real name, but I think
yeah.
she's in, Thanksgiving, the horror
You
movie
know
Thanksgiving.
what, Jeff? You are so right. I just rewatched Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving. You're right. She has a cameo in it, I think in the beginning. She
Yeah.
is, let me look real quick. You're right. Her name in real life is
Lynn
Lynn Griffin, right? She plays
yeah.
Claire Harrison. And yeah, in Thanksgiving, which I loved. Yeah, she's grandma. I think she's in that opening scene, like before things go crazy at the store, right?
Yeah. And that was I thought that was great,
Oh, I thought
Thanksgiving.
it was so good. Yeah. The only complaint I have about Thanksgiving is the ending felt very rushed. Like that
Yeah.
felt like we're out of time. Like, it would have been nice to like just have that fleshed out a little bit more like Scream or like a
Yeah.
lot of the whodunits where it's like, give me a little bit more talking now that I know it's you. But
Right.
yeah, I'm ready for the sequel. I thought that was so fun and actually pretty thrilling and scary too. Like it's funny,
Yeah.
but it goes there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have
I like that
some
one.
I should rewatch that because I think I bought it, but, I
Oh
just
yeah.
Yeah, Gina Gershon. Gosh,
Oh
I don't
my god, Jeff, Gina Gershon, then that scene, that's another one where I'm like, "Oh my god, what's going on?"
Right.
Yeah, well, Eli Roth, we know, I mean, he's going for it, so,
Yeah.
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 But, any last thoughts about Black Christmas, Jeff, that you wanna say?
I just think we should make it our life's mission to just spread the good word and tell people, listen, don't be afraid that it's 1974.
Mhm.
Put it on, buy it, it's on Shudder and Peacock, I think, right now.
Yeah,
Um,
it's on a few things right now, yeah, it's having a
yeah,
moment.
but
Yeah.
just to, it's Christmas time. Let's get in the spirit of Christmas
Yeah.
and watch that movie. That's
Just
all.
jump in and like, yeah, I mean, you still hear some Christmas songs. It starts with Silent Night, and I think it even ends. There's a little bit of Silent Night at the end before the phone rings, right? So you hear some Christmas
Yeah,
tunes. You
yeah,
see the lights. You see the snow. I think it's you get that, and
I
then
think so.
and then there's lots of really foul language and murder. I mean, come on, it's fun, right?
Exactly.
All right, Marky Mark. Let's just say Black Christmas 2006 is
not great. Is that what you were gonna say?
I wasn't gonna say. I was gonna say it's fun. It's not great. There's a lot of storylines that are unnecessary. One might say convoluted.
But what we do have going for us is more Andrea Martin.
Of course, absolutely,
And that's really all I was here for.
right. So we had a good time, but we should have just watched the original
Again.
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 So I completely forgot to tell you the story today, but there was one time when we were talking about our my Margot Kidder story and your Andrea Martin story. I saw Andrea Martin once riding a bike on 106th in Columbus by her old apartment. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Andrea Martin. I love you. She's like, I love you too, sweetheart. Like, it was so good. And that was it. I forgot to mention that. Bye, Mark.
Bye.
And that, my friends, is Black Christmas, one of the earliest and best modern examples of the slasher movie, obviously inspiring Halloween, When a Stranger Calls, Scream, and more. So what do you think happened to Billy, and to Jess, and to little Agnes? Make sure you check your attics before going to sleep tonight, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode, and thank you to my horror-loving friend, Jeff Bugajski, for being my fellow sorority sis this episode. Please leave a rating or review on the podcast app you're using, or a thumbs up on YouTube if you liked this episode. Follow me on Instagram at ReleaseDateRewind to see more great stuff related to this conversation and to the movie. Thank you Straw Hut Media, Kyle Motzinger, Greg Clements, and Portland Media Center. I have one more episode of the year on the way, and it's another special one featuring sisters and the holidays. Little Women. Merry Christmas, everybody.